Welcome along then to our second big match build-up show this week, and this episode is sponsored by OneFootball. Do check out the excellent free OneFootball app to be kept up to date of the latest scores, stats and news all in one place. To download the OneFootball app, click the link below the show. So then, despite after some social media meltdowns on Sunday, the results at Arsenal was not terminal, but probably little to learn about the result in fairness, and it does bring a little pressure for Saints on Wednesday night as Fulham visit St Mary's. But it is fair to say though, it is unanimous as a must win for both parties, and a win for Saints on Wednesday would ease some pressure and would perhaps climb out the bottom three if results go our way. And if we win, of course, it might condemn Fulham to an almost impossible escape. We discuss more in our first half of our preview with the Southampton Dellivery podcast. And as for the opposition, are they already resigned to relegation? What do they need to do to spring a surprise for the rest of the Premier League campaign? Find out more from our Fulham fans at the Fulhamish podcast.
I think, yeah, it has to be a must-win. Fulham at home, they're really, and I'm shooting us in the foot here saying this, but they're the type of side that we want to play. We want to play a side that's going to come attack. They are as leaky at the back as any defense in the league. So
we're looking at these two fixtures really as last chance saloon, and very much so. I think anything but 6 points in these fixtures, and Fulham are down. I mean, most Fulham fans are resigned to it. I'm resigned to it. We're in the Championship next season, and it's a real shame because whilst you mentioned the points total, there's another point effectively when you look at our terrible goal difference.
And this episode is available to download in the card above my head if you're watching on YouTube, or available on most audio platforms below the show. And I'd love to know whether you are listening along and downloading on various different platforms, and maybe even listening ahead of match day. Do get in touch with us in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. But do stay tuned then for the rest of the show. Now is time to kick off our Southampton versus Fulham big match build-up show. So welcome along then to our first half of this Fulham big match build-up show. And Arsenal was fresh in the memory. I'm recording just after the final whistle, and joining us on the line all the way from the sunny California, or perhaps even the cold California spring at the moment, Matt Markstone. Really good to see you. How are you, mate?
Good. Nice to see you. This is I couldn't imagine anything else to be doing right now after that Arsenal result. So happy to be here and talking to you, and hopefully we'll be smiling by the end of it.
Well, I suppose let's open up some wounds first of all. It is literally fresh in memory. The final whistle was less than an hour ago, but you know the boys have been away in Tenerife last week. They've had 15 days off, and I suppose the performance this afternoon was little to suggest there were improvements and what they sort of took on board during the week in Tenerife.
Yeah, it didn't look good for large portions of the match, and maybe that's a little bit harsh, but it just didn't look like we were sharp. We were definitely, it looked like we were fresh in terms of the guys were running a lot and pressing and doing all that stuff, but the sharpness wasn't there. And maybe if you flip the Arsenal Europa League matches around and they have to go away last Thursday and they suffer a 1-0 defeat, maybe they come back and aren't as sharp, but they looked up for it and they took their chances, and that kind of sums up our season, where we don't take chances, we make a mistake, and the other teams punish us. So there you go, 2-0 down, and then the second half was just frankly kind of boring. So I don't really know what else to say about it.
Well, I suppose that second half we've all got our own coping methods, and fair play to you cracking open a can of beer at 7 o'clock in the morning. We won't tell anybody else that's watching this video. Anybody else have got appointments with you later on today.
That's all right. They won't see it till after.
Well, what we could say is, the early two goals, I think for the most part they were easily preventable, I mean, we had good spells of our own, and just before, obviously, the goal, we had an excellent chance from Nathan Redmond, a solo chance of his own, had nobody to pass to, but only a minute later we found ourselves behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was good to see Redmond get in behind the line as easily as he did. You're hoping that was going to be a thing we were able to do all match. But then, Leno comes up with a big save. They go back the other way. And, people were screaming about the penalty, maybe the penalty decision that should have gone against Stevens, kind of dragging somebody down in the area. But then it's just, all the defense is sucked in inside the width of the posts. Nobody's out there on Mkhitaryan who kind of puts that ball back towards goal, and Lacazette just plays it in. And once that happens, it's any momentum we had, any kind of positive feeling we had coming out of Tenerife and coming through the week of training, I think just kind of goes out the window. And then you have to just fight to keep the spirits up. And it didn't take long for Arsenal to kind of nail that all the way down. And here we go again. So really fighting the urge to kind of be down and negative and things like that. But there are individual mistakes in our team that we're just not good enough to overcome, I don't think.
Well, there's a couple of things really, especially for the first goal. Bednarek, it is fair to say he's been our best defender this season, or even since Mark Hughes was sacked, he's always been playing in the team. But he I suppose he played Lacazette on side, and it was a nonchalant little sort of backheel flick. And Bednarek can be blamed for that one. Let's because we love to blame somebody for a mistake. Right. But for the second one, like you say, Jack Stevens maybe was caught in the ball well too much, and then in the end led to another catastrophic error, a catastrophic consequence, really. I mean, of course, a lot of us were saying Yoshida should be returning to the team, and I think it is about time Yoshida does replace Stevens this Wednesday. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to gloss over the mistake there by Stevens, but it's almost like, Mark Hughes had Wesley Hoot as his go-to defender. He was going to be in there, and you just wonder: is Hasenhutl's guy? Is Stevens going to turn into Hasenhutl's Hoot? And you hope not. And I would have thought that with Yoshida being given the 2 weeks back to work his way back into the team, that this would have been the game to start him. I understood him not coming straight back in after being gone for so long. I understood keeping that back three the same, but I think that's maybe one of the questions we can ask is why this time wasn't Yoshida in there. And, the back pass that he made wasn't great. You almost just wish Gunn would have let it run out for a corner or just kick it out of bounds for a throw in. But as soon as that ball is kind of picked up, I think by Iwobi, something's coming. And once again, there it goes. And, Arsenal for large portions of today looked pretty good when they were, especially towards the end of the second half. They were fun to watch. And unfortunately, my son's an Arsenal fan. My best friend's an Arsenal fan. So I basically just turned my phone off and started drinking. So it was great.
Coping methods, huh? But, obviously Arsenal was always going to be tough. And I suppose when they put to the two goals in, they sort of took their foot off the gas, didn't they, really? And they were fairly comfortable. And like you said, the second half was quite boring. It was quite flat. We had a couple of chances ourselves, Target with a great drilling shot, and I suppose that's as good as it got. Austin's header sort of looped over the top, Ward-Prowse's sort of half volley, but we didn't offer too much going forward. And, there was a few omissions again today. Shane Long wasn't even in the matchday squad, so is there a question whether he's injured or not? There wasn't nothing that suggested online. And also, Bertrand was not even in the playing squad today. He was on the bench but didn't make an appearance. So maybe you could suggest that those players are already looking ahead for the Fulham game.
Yeah. I think when you look at the matches we have coming up in such a short period of time, it's kind of a mess for us because we've been off for so long. Then we played 3 games now, and then we're going to be, we're going to come up to another extended kind of period of time off. But that's tough on the spot to play this way. And one of the things that we talked about earlier on the show and a couple of weeks ago is that you play this high pressing style. You play with all this energy that requires a lot from the players, and it's all fine and good unless you don't get results. And then players just kind of look around and say, we're putting forth all this effort, and we're not getting any return. So you wonder how that's gonna work out. But the number of chances we created today I don't think were enough. But like you said, it was always going to be tough. And then I think the substitutions at halftime, the change in formation, you understood that something different had to be done. But then the quick injury to Obafemi meant that we had to then change positions with Redmond again. And I just think it was kind of a mess. And Hasenhuttl looked frustrated on the sidelines. It's really the first time I've seen him have any sort of display that way. He chucked a water bottle at one point that was on the TV here. I don't know if you guys saw that there, but he looked frustrated, and I think it's understandable. But hopefully with not much time to dwell on it before Fulham, hopefully the team talk goes however it goes. They get back out there tomorrow and are ready to go on Wednesday at home.
Well, then another question is to be asked about Obafemi's fitness. Only managed 15 minutes, explosive forward, and we were hoping that he was going to make a difference. And again off with a hamstring injury. But I suppose another question also at the back between the sticks, a change in the goalkeeper. This happened at the turn of the year. Angus Gunn replaced Alex McCarthy, and it could be suggested who is our number one. McCarthy's looked a bit silly recently. He sort of looked like he's had lead in his boots. Yeah. I think a lot of people were asking for Gunn to start. And once again, with the extended break and the time away, you think this is where Hasenhüttl can really take another solid look at who's going to come in. The last time the Gunn came in, I think he was pretty clear as to he was going to get 2 matches and McCarthy would be back. It was just due to kind of fixture congestion and everything else. But coming off of a break like that, I don't know. I don't think Gunn did anything to lose his job today. Maybe that clearance could have been better, but I thought he did fine. He made a couple okay saves, nothing too crazy. There was one deflection there towards the end that Vestergaard kind of deflected a cross, I think, that he had to save with his feet. So yeah, there are questions around the team, and I don't know. Sometimes we say we need competition in the squad because we want players to be pushed, and sometimes we would like a really clear answer somewhere, and I'm not sure we have either right now. It's kind of a bit confusing at the moment. Well, the 2 games that Angus Gunn did come in at the turn of the year, it was only a few days between both fixtures, so it could be suggested that he may start on Wednesday. Would you start Angus Gunn on Wednesday?
I think I would. I think he's been fine. I think he's been good with the chances he's had. I don't think you can look at his performances and say, there's no evidence there that he's not ready. And like you said, McCarthy has been a bit slow, hasn't made a ton of saves. And some of them you can point on to the defense just not marking people and things like that. But maybe it's a shot in the arm to McCarthy even for next time when he comes in. That's just some extra motivation to step his game up. And we also saw Fraser Forster back in the training gallery. I don't know on the images, but it's already been cleared that he's not part of the plans. But maybe it's just one more person to kind of keep pushing Gunn and McCarthy forward.
Well, we'll see what happens on Wednesday when the teams are announced. But it is a huge game in the circumstances. Obviously Cardiff was hammered on Friday night at home to Watford, and they play before us this week. They play at home on Tuesday against Everton, and there's another game going on elsewhere, Newcastle versus Burnley. And a win for us could really leapfrog Cardiff, depending on the results. But it's been mooted, around social media. For you, is this a must win?
I mean, at some point we have to say it, right? It's and Adam Leach always likes to say it's not a must win because there are always games next time and you can play in the championship and all this stuff. And but I think if the goal is 40 points, like if we're going with that as 40 points and you look at winnable fixtures from here on out and picking up points, I think, yeah, it has to be a must win. Fulham at home, they're really, and I'm shooting us in the foot here saying this, but they're the type of side that we want to play. We want to play a side that's going to come attack. They are as leaky at the back as any defense in the league. So the fact that they're going to pour forward and leave us space to counter, I think is about all we can hope for. And, we need to get on top early. We can't afford to concede a goal like we did today early on, because that will turn the crowd way too soon at St. Mary's, I think.
Yeah, and I think, should we go down to an early goal, it really put, I suppose, a poisonous atmosphere perhaps, but we need to stay resilient, stay strong, come back into the game. And, should we win, we would cut them adrift. It'd be almost an impossible task for them to climb back out of the drop zone. But wrap us up then with your quick prediction, mate.
So against Fulham since, I think, 2012, it's been 3 wins, 2 draws, and a loss. And there hasn't been a 0-0 draw between the teams since, I think, 2004. So there's definitely going to be a goal or 2. So I'm going to go 2-0 Saints. I think we'll get one kind of early and then hopefully just put it away as they continue to pour forward. So that's me being super optimistic and maybe a little bit drunk, but hey, it's okay.
Well, we'll go with that.
Just kidding. I didn't drink that much, I promise.
We'll see what happens. But no, really good to speak to you, Matt. And just to tell everybody, remind you where we can find your excellent podcast.
Excellent. I don't know if you can say that. Anyway, the show has a website now. So southamptondelivery.com, 2 L's in delivery. And you can get all the links to listen and subscribe anywhere else. There's also a newsletter coming out every Friday now. People are contributing to writing that. So that's something new. I don't know why I decided to start that, but it's been a lot of fun. So we'll keep it going. All
right. Great stuff. Really good to speak to you. Enjoy the rest of your day and come on, you Saints. Great stuff again by Matt from the Southampton Dellivery podcast. You make sure you follow his pages to be kept up to date, and there'll be a link in the card above if you're watching on YouTube, and of course the link's down below in the description. And as it is a home game this Wednesday, there isn't any travel advice to tell you about, but I just guess South Western Railway services might be just a little busier with the Fulham fans coming in and out of town, heading to and from London. But a bonus, the trains will be running. Yes. Anyway, now it's time to speak to our opposition to find out all things Fulham. So welcome along then to our second half of our Fulham big match build-up show. The games are coming thick and fast once again, our second of this weekend. We've managed to catch up for the opposition. Sammy from the Fulhamish podcast. Always busy, mate, and good to speak to you.
Yeah, good to speak to you too, Freddie. I love being on this show, so thanks for having me on again.
Well, I suppose, it is an important time for Fulham at the moment in the season. I suppose at the time we spoke in November, Fulham were doing okay, I suppose, and we just about to change our manager. You just changed for Ranieri, but I mean, suppose in general, where has it all kind of gone wrong for Fulham this season? Obviously, Ranieri, the new manager bounce, you could say, has faded, and his first was against Saints, and since then it's only been 2 wins.
Yeah, I think after that Southampton game, I think a few Fulham fans thought, maybe we've pulled off a bit of a masterstroke here. Ranieri comes in, wins his first game, and I think we thought, okay, right, Ranieri's there. We were all very upset to lose Slavisa. I think I said this on your show last time, that Slavisa was very much idolised by the Fulham faithful, and the way it all ended was really, really sad. However, we lost 6 on the bounce, and not many people in the Premier League survive losing 6 on the bounce. So I could understand why the chairman made the decision he did. However, Ranieri, since that Southampton game, it's really not gone well for him at all. We scraped that win over Huddersfield at Christmas, and we frankly didn't really deserve it. It was a 90th minute winner after all the penalty debacle. And the only game that we have deserved to win that we did was the Brighton one, where we actually changed the tactics in the second half and scored 4 second half goals and looked incredible. And if Fulham had just shown a little bit of that attacking now throughout the season, we'd be fine. The problem with Ranieri is he's tried to put square pegs in round holes. He's tried to not use the players. He's not using the players in the right way. This is a team that's used to getting the ball down, passing, attacking, moving, exploiting space, patient build-up. And Ranieri is very much a get-it-forward, direct kind of manager. He doesn't see the point in wasting the time passing around the back, because the goal is the other end of the pitch, is what he keeps on saying. And a lot of our football has just been hitting it long to Alexander Mitrovic, who isn't really a hold-up player. He's a big, strong player, but he's not a player that's going to keep the ball up there a la Chris Wood or something for minutes on end while the players come and join him. And our attack and defence just look really disjointed. And speaking of that defence, he's supposed to be a defensive coach, and he has not fixed some of the defensive mistakes that just keep happening game after game. You will score on Wednesday. You just will, because we have a defensive mistake in us, and it's so frustrating. Quite often it's not the setup or anything like that. It's just individual errors every single game, and it's infuriating. And barring a miracle, I really can't see any other thing than down for us at the moment.
Well, it sounds like you've been watching Saints' early DVDs from this season, an individual error from every single week, but I suppose the cold hard facts are there. 58 goals conceded this season, more than any other side by a fair bit, to be fair. And, like you touched upon, the players like getting the ball down. You've got players that are coming in the summer like Schürrle, Maxime Marchand, excuse my pronunciation though, but Vieto and Seri as well. They're ball playing players, but they're not sort of set ready for the relegation dogfight, and they won't produce some of the, I suppose the quote in the article said some of the hard hitting performances needed in a basement battle.
No, exactly. I think we showed it when you guys came to town. Let's say that was probably you guys at your absolute lowest ebb when you came to us back in November, and you still were able to score 2 goals. Okay, one of them was an absolute worldie, but also that first goal that you scored, and that was the kind of classic defensive mistake that Fulham have made all season. It came from a throw-in, and before you knew it, somehow Alexander Armstrong just had all the space in the world to tuck it through, and there was about 7 opportunities to clear the ball. And, that was Saints at your worst. So I'm worried about you when actually you do look a bit rejuvenated under Ralph Hasenhüttl. Yes, it hasn't been brilliant of late. The Cardiff defeat was not ideal in any way, shape or form for you guys. But the fact that you guys could score 2 goals away from home from us when actually you weren't playing that well, you guys have got to be confident that you're going to get a goal or 2. The only way that Fulham beat teams is by if we concede 2, we'll score 3. That's the only way that we seem to win games, is if the attacking players can have a good day and get a bag full of goals and try and almost outscore our defence.
Well, it seems like the presenter from Pointless took a day off from his BBC duties and scored 4 Saints. Forgive Sammy, obviously it was Stuart Armstrong on the day. His hair was fine, but Alexander
Armstrong.
It was Stuart Armstrong that scored, but Alexander Armstrong was the Pointless presenter.
Very good.
But I suppose you could say, Ranieri, like you say, is a defensive coach, but we haven't seen anything of that, I suppose, since he's taken over. He's asked for his players for a fighting spirit and players to be like pirates, but there was obviously the world famous quote that he said that there's going to be pizza every time that Leicester keep a clean sheet. How many pizzas has he given out since he's been at Fulham?
Well, he's given out 2, and both of those came at Christmas. He interestingly changed to 5 at the back for the Newcastle game, which was just before Christmas, and that was the first time we kept a clean sheet in the league. And it's a tactic that kind of works, and it worked with Alfie Mawson at centre-back. And we've been massively unlucky with injuries this season. I think a lot of people do forget that, and that's something that can't be controlled. And Alfie Mawson, a man that played every single minute for Swansea last season, arrived and got injured, and then he got back into the team. And then against Huddersfield, just after Christmas, he got injured at half-time doing up his laces in the changing room. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you can't really write. But without Alfie Mawson, the 5 at the back doesn't really work that well. And it just means that we lose a player in midfield. So, since Alfie Mawson's got injured again, we haven't managed to keep a clean sheet. And, I can't believe that Ranieri hasn't managed to organise this defence at all, given his reputation. I can imagine he wasn't going to suddenly make us the most defensive team in the league overnight. At the end of the day, you're governed by the players you have, and our defensive players have not got that much quality. But I thought Ranieri would add just a little bit more steel through a bit more organisation. The only interesting thing is Harvard Norvite, who we signed from Hoffenheim at the end of January. And he's just making his way slowly into the team. He's back from injury now, and he's got 200 senior appearances. And I think he might have the experience in order to clean up our act at the back a little bit. So that's the only saving grace, is if Norvite can come into the team and generate a little bit of form, because he's got pedigree. He didn't do that well at West Ham. He had a bit of a bad spell there, but he's played 200 times in the Bundesliga. He's an experienced defender. And well, our last Norwegian defender was Brede Hangeland, and he saved us 10 years ago when we stayed up. So if Norvite can be our next Viking to come in and do a job, then he'll be probably as similarly loved as Brede is.
Ranieri's known for the Tinker Man, and perhaps a player that is endeared most to many Fulham fans. The 18-year-old sort of superstar Ryan Sessegnon's barely got a game recently, and Claudio's been in the press recently. He's asked Ryan Sessegnon to inject some fresh impetus to help the club out of the drop zone. And he hasn't started, I suppose. We must say we are speaking before the West Ham game. He hasn't played for 4 games, or I suppose started in 4 games before the weekend.
Yeah, the Ryan Sessegnon thing is really interesting, and it's really getting fans very, very angry indeed, because Ryan is the future of our team. He was the hero last season. He scored nearly 15 goals in the Championship, and Ranieri's just not using him and saying things like he's a boy, he needs to be a man, and he's not fit enough yet. He was more than happy to play Andre Schürrle in our last game, when Andre Schürrle had been suffering with flu all week. So I can't imagine Andre Schürrle was fighting fit either. Some of his quotes towards Sessegnon have been a bit weird, and I think it shows some of Ranieri's thoughts on youth players. He hasn't got the greatest record of bringing youth players through the team. Even you look at that Leicester team, there were no real youth stars, and Damari Gray wasn't really getting much of a game when he was there. So I think the one that's angering me more though than Sessegnon for not playing is Tom Cairney, because I really think Tom Cairney is the crux of our team. And you look at every win that Fulham have had this season, there's always two deciding factors. The first factor is Tom Cairney has played and been instrumental in the win. And secondly, Mitrovic scores. We don't win if Mitrovic doesn't score. And we don't win if Cairney isn't playing. And he's been using Cairney at right wing. And you saw in the second half against Brighton, he came on and changed the game. And I think that's the one that's frustrating me more than Sessegnon. As much as I love Sess, he's 18 and he's got a long way to go. But someone like Cairney is ready now and is such a classy player on his day. And it's difficult, though. The only thing with Cairney is he's a very similar player to Jean-Michel Seri. And remember when Lampard and Gerrard couldn't play in the same team? There's a bit of a similar element at Fulham that Seri and Cairney, they're trying to do the same job all the time. And that's a great position to be in when you've got two players like that. But they've tried and tried and tried to play them in the same team, and it rarely works, unfortunately.
Well, there you go. There's your danger man then, ladies and gents. Tom Cairney, if he plays on Wednesday night, it could be an important figure as well. But it is a crucial time for Fulham. Obviously, perhaps if you're without a point or a win against West Ham at the weekend and perhaps a defeat on Wednesday, I suppose you could really be cut adrift from then. And at the time of recording, it's 7 points, and many are already assuming that you're already down. And it's going to be a tough set of fixtures afterwards with Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City all to follow.
Yeah, well, we're looking at these two fixtures really as last chance saloon, and very much so. I think anything but 6 points in these fixtures, and Fulham are down. I mean, most Fulham fans are resigned to it. I'm resigned to it. We're in the Championship next season, and it's a real shame because whilst you mentioned the points total, there's another point effectively when you look at our terrible goal difference, which I think is only worsened by Huddersfield. And we're not going to get anywhere near anyone goal difference because we're so far adrift on that. I mean, the table doesn't lie. We've been poor. Given how poor I think the Premier League in general is at the bottom half this season, I think it's absolutely criminal how Fulham are so far adrift at the bottom of the table. But ultimately, we've just lost too many games. Too many games have slipped away. But yeah, if you can get 6 points, then maybe it gives us a little bit of a platform. Our final 6 games are very kind. Like once we're into April, we don't play anyone barely in the top 8 really. And any team that is above in the top half of the table is very much going to be on the beach by the time we play them. Our final game's Newcastle at home. Our penultimate game's Cardiff at home. So we have some very, very generous fixtures. If we can get into April and not be completely cut adrift, then there's a chance those fixtures lead to a great escape. But given the amount of Fulham I've watched this season, I don't see it. But maybe at the moment I'm being a bit pessimistic. Win at St Mary's, we'll be within a few points of you, and then maybe there's a bit of a chance. But yeah, it's last chance saloon for us completely. All
right. Well, I suppose if we are assuming, then I'll miss Craven Cottage. It's a good away day on the River Thames as well. Plenty of good pubs around. But Sammy, wrap us up with a quick prediction then for Wednesday.
Do you know what? I'm going to stay positive, even though I haven't sounded very positive throughout this. I think I saw what Cardiff did a couple of weeks ago at St Mary's, and it gives me hope. I thought you guys were going to be completely clear by this point, and I'm surprised at some of the results recently. It seemed like Ralph Hasenhüttl had a brilliant honeymoon period, but maybe that's faded a tad. So we've beaten you once this season. I'm hopeful that we can come down to St Mary's and maybe nick a 2-1 win, and even if that doesn't keep us up, give us a little bit of a belief and get us an unlikely away win. So yeah, I'm going to stay confident, even though everything in me tells me not to do that.
That's the physics of football, mate. But just let everybody know where we can keep up to date with everything Fulham for your podcast as well.
Yeah, of course. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast. Just head to fulhamish.co.uk. If you've got any Fulham supporting friends or family, we're a big central resource for everything Fulham. And our preview looking ahead to the Southampton game is on the podcast right now. There's a bit of a West Ham reaction. Then there's a Southampton preview on the website as well. So if you fancy hearing some bit more from a Fulham perspective, then head over to our channel and subscribe to the pod.
All right, well, Sammy, keep up the good work, mate, and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, cheers, Freddie.
Excellent stuff there from Sammy from the Fulhamish podcast. Do make sure you check out all their channels for all your Fulham needs, and they're doing a fantastic job over there, and recently funding their own banner to display at Craven Cottage to protest against the owners and protest over ticket prices at their football club. Keep up the good work, guys. Fan power is the way forward, and go to their website to find out more, and perhaps if you want to throw some pennies in the pot too. So that does wrap up this episode, the second of the week. Do let us know your predictions for Wednesday night, a massive game under the lights. Do check back after the match for our match reactions, and later on this week, of course, for our third instalment of the week for our Man United preview. So thank you very much then for watching and listening along. Only one thing left from me is come on, you Saints.